All right, everybody. It's Dolphins week. Did the Bills once again squash the Dolphins? Or did the Dolphins get the taste of revenge? Tua takes on Allen. Let's talk Dolphins. Let's talk Bills. Right now, right here on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches on this edition of Bills Postgame. Let's roll. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Bills 30. Oh my goodness. Dolphins 27. Welcome to another Victory Monday edition of Bills Postgame. Happy Victory Monday to you, Bills Mafia. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa in a thriller once again by a final score of 30-27. Buffalo 30 and Miami 27. So is the door closed? Is the door closed on the AFC East? Can we say for sure the Buffalo Bills will become, for the fifth straight time in the Sean McDermott era, can we say for certain the Buffalo Bills are finally going to grasp that fifth straight AFC East title in the Sean McDermott era? Well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's looking pretty good. The Bills going into next week, Bills Mafia are now 7-2, and the Dolphins coming out of this week, going into next week, are 6-2. Sorry, I should say 2-6. Yeah, that makes more sense because the Bills, as I said, they are 7-2. Now, I don't want to give no area credit here, but I talked to my brother and our parents, especially our dad, who is a Dolphins fan, but that's more of something that we'll talk about off the air. Anyways, I talked to my brother, the host of Dolphins Postgame, and the rest of our family, some of them who are Dolphin fans and some of them are Bills fans, but again, that's a more personal note, so we're not going to talk about that. We are, however, going to talk about the game when the Bills came into this game 6-2, and of course, the Dolphins coming into the game 2-5. Your head coaches, Mike McDaniel for the Miami Dolphins, and for the Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott. I mix up here. Head coaches we've gone through. Oh yes, now we want to go to I normally would go to the owners, but now we want to go to the quarterbacks. And no surprise here. It's Tua Tagovailoa back in the saddle for Miami. And speaking of back in the saddle, Josh Allen, good to go for this game for Buffalo. So it's Josh Allen versus Tua Tagovailoa. And it's a good one. Now you might be saying, a good one? Really? It looked more like it was going to come down to who is going to have the ball last. And that's exactly what it was. let's break it down for you. We're going to break down the first half here before we take our first break. And then when we come back, we'll go to our game stats. And we are also going to go into the second half. And as we speak here, it is Monday, November 4th, 2024. We are coming to you live after my show with the Pittsburgh Penguins, recapping the Penguins' Saturday night win against the Montreal Canadiens. If you want to have a look and know on that final score, the Penguins defeated the Montreal Canadiens 3-1. I'll have a recap for you on Penguins postgame, and that is the show that is coming your way here on Sports for Beginners right before this show. So if you're joining us from the Pittsburgh Penguins show, welcome in to Buffalo Bills postgame, the Sunday game, the night after the Penguins beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-1 in Pittsburgh. Of course, I'll have that for you ahead of this show. But regardless, we got to talk about the football. Bills winning 30-27 in a game that, yes, you could say it came down to who had the ball last. And I agree with you. So let's break it down in the first half. Let's see what happened in that first half. And I guess, and actually in this one, we will get into a new kind of way we're going to run the rest of the game after we do our scoring summary and our game stats. This will actually follow the second half scoring and the game stats in full. The game stats in full, which will happen after our second half scoring. But, of course, we're going to open up our show the way we just did with our quarterbacks and our head coaches in Sean McDermott and Mike McDaniel. Of course, before we jump into the first half scoring, which we're going to get into in a little bit, I do want to let you guys know that we are going to do a little something like things I liked, things I didn't like, and that is going to fall in before we get to the play of the game segment, as well as our player of the game segment we call the game balls of the game. Drop it in right now if you're in Discord. Drop it in right now if you're on the Discord server under Bill's postgame show interactions. Your play of the game from this game this week. Your player of the game, which will be a recipient of the game balls. Maybe some of the things you liked, some of the things you didn't like. I know one thing I didn't like right off the jump, a missed field goal by Tyler Bass later in the game, which was actually in the second half when the Bills scored their first touchdown of the game. But that was something I didn't like. However, Tyler does not miss a 61-yard field goal later in the game. We'll get into that a little bit later. Speaking of the scoring, though, however, a lot of that stuff that I just mentioned is coming up a little bit later. But, yes, as I mentioned right off this jump, I did not like Tyler Bass missing the field goal. Rather, the extra point that he missed, I did not like that in the third quarter. Right off of the jump, after we got the ball in the first half, I should say. And then the Dolphins, who did win the toss, by the way, I didn't like how the Buffalo Bills started after they scored a touchdown. I didn't like the missed field goal by Tyler Bass. So, credit to Tyler Bass on making sure that he rectifies that wrong in the next few attempts that he would get. including late in the game in the fourth quarter. All right. With that said, let's jump right on into our first half game scoring. And this one started with field goals. If you could believe that, well, it's true. First up, it was Tyler Bass, and he hits a 40-yard field goal to give Buffalo a 1-0 lead in the first quarter. Buffalo up 3-0. Jason Sanders, next person to score. This one is on a Dolphins drive, and this Dolphins drive stalls out, but Jason Sanders hits a 39-yard field goal, and the Bills and Dolphins are tied at 3-3. It's 3-3 apiece after one quarter of play. On to the second quarter we go. And this one, the only touchdown scored in the first half and the only touchdown scored in the game's first half, which would go by the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa passing. This one, he finds Devon Achane for the 14-yard touchdown. Jason Sanders' extra point attempt is up and good. Dolphins on top of the Bills, 10-3. Devon Achane gets the ball from Tua Tagovailoa. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, Tua, I apologize. I'm trying to get the name right as we go along. But regardless, Tua's pass to Devon Achane goes for 14 yards, and the Dolphins go up 10-3 on Buffalo early second quarter. Late second quarter of the game, Tyler Bass. Well, the drive stalls out for Allen again, but this time, Tyler Bass has to hit a field goal from 49 yards. The hold from Sam Martin is good, and it's a good hold by Sam Martin. And this one is in the books. It's good. So Tyler Bass has now hit a field goal from 40 yards out. He did that in the first quarter to make it 3-0 in favor of Buffalo. And now the Dolphins lead, which was at 10-3. The Dolphins were on top of Buffalo by 7. That lead at the half has been cut down to 4 as Tyler Bass's 49-yard field goal is up and in the books, and it's 10-6 at the half. We're going through this thing quite quickly here, so you know what? We're going to add our second half right on in before we take the break. So, let's keep it going. And we go to the third quarter. Josh finds Mac Hollins for the 1-yard touchdown. And the Bills are able to take the lead by 2 points. It's the Bills 12 and the Dolphins 10. But it's a 1-point game because Tyler Bass, extra point. Oh, but he missed. He misses the extra point. So, it's 12-10, Buffalo. Later third quarter. Miami has the ball this time. Their drive stalls out. Jason Sanders, I should say. A 23-yard field goal. that one's in the books, and Miami's got the lead again. It's now Miami 13, Buffalo 12. So Miami up by 1. Next time Josh has the ball, finds Ray Davis for, get this, not 20 yards, not 30 yards, not 40 yards, but 63 yards. A 63-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen to Ray Davis for the touchdown. Bills not electing to go to Tyler Bass, so they go for 2. And Josh will find Keon Coleman to complete the extra point. The Bills at this time now lead the Dolphins 20-13. But at this point in time, it was 18-13 Buffalo, meaning the Bills were leading this game. So they were back ahead, but how much were they leading by? Well, they led by 5. They added the 20 on the extra points. No, not the extra point. They added the 20 on the 2-point conversion, I should say. That made it 7-point lead. So yes, so just to clear everything up, it was 18-13 prior to the Bills electing to go for a 2-point conversion, which means the Bills were up by 5. Just double check that. 18, take away 13. Yes, they were up by 5 at the time of the touchdown. By the time the 2-point conversion succeeded, it was Bills up by 7 on the... Yes, the Bills up by 7, up heading into the fourth quarter. The Bills up by 7 heading into the fourth quarter at 20-13 Buffalo. Buffalo in the lead. Early fourth quarter. No need for Tua in this timeline. Devon Achane gets the snap from Tua. And it's Achane with the run for an 8-yard touchdown. Devon Achane, 8-yard run for a touchdown. And that would, guess what? Tie this ball game at 20-20. Weren't we just tied before we got to the second quarter? And didn't Miami take the lead? Not only that, didn't they have the lead at half? Yes, they did. Not only did they take the lead, but they also had a 10-6 lead at the half. And here we go. Right in the fourth quarter, Miami ties it up at 20-20 on the Devon Achane 8-yard touchdown run. And then just a few minutes later, Bills on the ball. Alec Anderson reported in as eligible. And Josh, he'll go to Quintin Morris. And guess what? Quintin Morris is going to come up with the 2-yard touchdown run. 2-yard touchdown pass. Because Josh actually passed it to him. Just to make sure I get that right. For a touchdown. Caught 1 yard into the end zone is what it was ruled as. And this makes it 27-20. to 20. Buffalo. Buffalo up by 7 again. This time, though, to make sure that happens, Tyler Bass, extra point. Good. The extra point is up and good for Tyler Bass. That drive was 10 plays for Buffalo, and it resulted in a touchdown for Buffalo. So Buffalo is back up by 7. Tua. Josh threw a touchdown his last time up. Josh threw a touchdown his last time up. Let's see what I can do. And he finds the Penguin, Jalen Waddle, for a 7-yard touchdown. Jason Sanders follows it up with just like Tyler Bass. Extra point up and good. And we're knotted up at 27 apiece. Bills 27. Bills 27. Dolphins 27. We're getting down to the wire here. And with 10 seconds left and no timeouts, the Buffalo Bills turn to Tyler Bass. If he misses this, we probably go to overtime, or the Dolphins have an opportunity to take this win right into the win column and force Buffalo to 6-3 and become 3-6. Well, no, I should say 3-5, excuse me, because they came into the game 2-5, and Buffalo came into the game 6-2. With that all being said, just to keep it on here, the Bills turn to Tyler Bass once again. This time, Tyler's got to make the kick from 61 yards. Under center is Reed Ferguson. He's got a nice little snap here. The hold from Sam Martin, the punter for the Bills, is a good hold. And Tyler does not miss this one. He puts the 61-yarder right through the uprights. And the Bills go up 30-7. And that would ultimately end up be our final score. So the Buffalo Bills defeat the Miami Dolphins 30-27. Sounds a lot like 31-10, right? I mean, that was in week 2 of the NFL season. So we're at week 9. So that was a couple of weeks ago. Right? In any case, the Bills win it by 3. How much did they win when it was 31-10 in week number 2? I know we talked about this when we did this back in week number 2, but just to be on the safe side, let's find out. Oh, wow. So the Dolphins did a really nice job of keeping the Buffalo Bills short of a big margin. Because the last time the Bills and the Dolphins played, back in week number 2, and on Thursday Night Football, mind you, it was 31-10. So they beat the Dolphins by 21 points. This week, guess what? They score 30, but the Dolphins have 27 points. So this time, the Bills are only going to win this game by a field goal. And wouldn't you know it, it's a first time in franchise record, a first time in franchise history, I should say, for Tyler Bass. And not only that, but it's also probably his first career longest field goal, probably. I'll have to take a look at. I'll have to take a look more on that. But that was a huge field goal for Tyler Bass. I'll have to look into more on that if that's his first ever career huge field goal margin that he had to do to give the Bills the win. All in all, the Bills improved to 7-2. The Dolphins fall to 2-6. And the Bills, my goodness me, the Bills. They just, yeah, okay, Josh throws a pick. Well, yeah, okay, Josh throws a pick. And Tua, last time the Bills played him, he threw, 2, 3 picks in this game? Okay, that's something that I'll take a look at off the air, just to make sure. But regardless, Bills win it once again, 30-27. We'll talk about our game stats in just a little bit, as we took a little while there to get to our first break. But you know what? That's okay. You know what? That's fine. Because now that we're at our first break, we'll take a break, come back with our game totals. I'll give you my play of the game. And before we get to the game balls of the game, due to time constraints, we will not go into the entire Week 9 wraparound. But we will go into some things I liked, some things I didn't like. And as always, after our next break, we'll go into setting up next week for Buffalo and next week for Miami. We'll set that up for you coming up in a couple of moments. But before we get to that, it's time now to take a break. When we return, game stats from this game, plus things I like, things I didn't like, my play of the game, and of course, time permitting, game balls of the game, which is our player of the game segment. You're listening to Buffalo Bills football on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. This is Buffalo Bills postgame on another Victory Monday edition of Bills Postgame. Back in a moment.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Hey hockey fans, it's your host Scott McGregor of the Penguins postgame show, here to let you know that you can catch me Wednesdays on every off day this season. The Penguins have an off day on a Wednesday, only on the Ice and Behind the Benches, for previous recaps from Pittsburgh Penguin hockey games this season, including matchups against the Maple Leafs, the Battle of Pennsylvania between the Penguins and the Flyers, and so much more. Don't miss Penguins Wednesday Hockey, Wednesdays only on the Ice and Behind the Benches, during every Pittsburgh Penguins Wednesday off day this season. Let's go Pens!
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Bills Postgame. Of course, that was a quick little ad there before we continued on with our break. That was a quick little ad there for Penguins Wednesday Hockey. Join us on Penguins Postgame only on the ice and behind the benches. Every Pittsburgh Penguins Wednesday off day, the Penguins do not play on a Wednesday night. You'll be able to catch as many Pittsburgh Penguin post-game shows as you can handle. Every off day the Penguins have this hockey season on a Wednesday, not including during the holiday season until we get past the holiday season. And speaking of that, you'll hear more about that over the course of the November schedule on Penguins postgame. And you'll also hear more about that as we get closer to the December break of Sports for Beginners Season 3. And, of course, the holiday break, which, wouldn't you know it, starts after the Penguins battle the Flyers for the first time this season in 2024, and of course, I should say this season in the 2024-2025 NHL season. So wouldn't you know it, it happens right after the Flyers battle the Penguins. I'll hope to have a show for you on Monday. There'll be a little Christmas Eve treat ahead of Christmas on Wednesday, December 25th, 2024. Even though our podcast will be on hiatus for the season as we get ready for season number 4 of the podcast, our post-game show bonus content will continue as we will bring you all the action from Pittsburgh and elsewhere, both in football and in hockey, over the course of our hiatus for season number 3, which wraps up, wouldn't you know it, it'll wrap up probably right by the time the Penguins begin a 2-game road trip in Nashville. That's going to be a pre-recorded program, but you'll hear more about it over the course of the month. All right, back to business. As I mentioned off the top of the show, it is Victory Monday on Bills postgame. We're recapping the Bills' 30-27 victory over the Miami Dolphins. And now it's time for the game stats as we roll into our second segment of the show. We took quite a bit of time there on our first opening segment, but you know what? That's completely okay, because we brought in a little bit of a Penguin post-game plug in there a little bit later after we took our first break. Regardless, we're talking about the Bills, so let's keep it going. And here we go with our game stats for this game. Of course, I already said it already. The Bills win this game 30-27. And a couple of games have gone final, including our Thursday night football game that went final between the Jets and the Texans. But again, like I said earlier, due to time constraints, we will not go over the entire Week 9 wraparound around the NFL, excuse me, not the NHL. I was going to say the NHL. We're talking football. The NFL is what I was going to say. So sorry about that. We will not go over the Week 9 wraparound of the NFL due to time constraints, but who knows? Maybe we will. I don't really intend this to be an hour, so we are going to see where time takes us. With that being said, let's jump in, shall we? As always, we jump in with our time of possession right off the jump. And our time of possession for this one is for the Miami Dolphins. They had the ball for 31 minutes and 53 seconds. The Buffalo Bills had the ball for 28 minutes and 7 seconds in this game. The Buffalo Bills got 4 automatic first downs on, or in this case, they got first downs on penalties. They had 4 first downs on the penalties. For Miami, 2 first down penalties. All in all, Miami had 14 passing first downs, Buffalo with 15. Miami 10 first down rushes. First down rushes for Miami, 10 for Buffalo. Sorry, 10 for Miami. 10 rushing first downs for Miami. 5 rushing first downs for Buffalo. And all in all, first downs quite even here. 24 for Buffalo and 26 for Miami. Just to reiterate there, 14 passing first downs for Miami, 10 rushing first downs for Miami, and 2 penalty first downs for Miami. Buffalo, 15 passing first downs, 5 rushing first downs, and 4 penalty first downs. Both teams perfect 1-for-1 on fourth down efficiency. Buffalo was 5 of 10 in third down efficiency. Miami 4 of 8 in third down efficiency. Miami's total yards to end the game, 373 yards on 60 plays, averaging 6.2 yards per play. Tua passed for 231 yards. 231 yards is the passing yards for Tua Tagovailoa, averaging 7.7 yards per pass. He was sacked once and lost 7 yards in that one attempt. Josh Allen, passing yards for him, he passed for 235 yards. The Bills finished the game with 325 yards in total on 59 plays, averaging 5.5 yards per play. And as I said, Josh Allen threw for 235 yards, averaging 5.8 yards per pass. Tua completed 25 of 28 of his passing attempts. Josh completed 25 of 39 of his passing attempts. Just to get things up to speed here, Josh was sacked by the Dolphins defense once and only lost 4 yards. So the only difference here between the sacks, the Dolphins sacked Josh Allen once, and he lost 4 yards on the play. The Bills' defense sacked Tua once, and he lost 7 yards on the sack. For the rushing yards, Bills only rushing the ball 19 times for 94 yards, averaging 4.9 yards per rush. For the Miami Dolphins, they rushed the ball 31 times, averaging 4.8 yards per rush, and they rushed it not only 31 times, but they got 149 yards rushing. So with that all being said, we move on to red zone. And on the red zone efficiency, the Buffalo Bills, 2 of 5. The Miami Dolphins, 3 of 4. Goal to go efficiency, Miami, a perfect 3 for 3. In goal to go efficiency, same thing for Buffalo. They had 2 opportunities there. They go a perfect 2 for 2. Penalties. Buffalo had 4 penalties. They were penalized for 40 yards on 4 penalties. Miami 8 penalties for 57 yards in this game. 1 turnover each. Josh Allen's turnover was a pick that we'll talk about in a little bit. The turnover for Miami was a fumble that they lost. And there was 1 attempt on the fumble. They lost that fumble. And they actually did fumble it earlier. They actually did fumble it a little bit later. But because the guy was down, that fumble would not count. So they only counted 1 fumble in this game for Miami. They got that 1 fumble they lost. An interception thrown, that was to Buffalo. That was on Josh Allen. Intercepted by, guess who? Before you guess, let me tell you. Let me tell you here. Because it comes into play here. And it was in the first quarter. The interception, Jalen Ramsey's. Did you think it was going to be someone else? Perhaps Jordan Poyer, maybe? Maybe it was going to be Jordan Poyer. But instead, it's Jalen Ramsey's who picks off Allen. Anywho, back to our stat. Three touchdowns by both sides. None on the ground for Buffalo. 1 on the ground for Miami. 2 passing touchdowns in the air for Miami. And all 3 of the touchdowns by the Buffalo Bills were passing touchdowns by Josh Allen. They were all in the air. All of the touchdowns were all in the air. No defensive and special team touchdowns in this game. Return yards. Let's see. 54 yards for Miami. 1 attempt in punt yards. 1 yard. Gain there in punt yards. For the Buffalo Bills, return yards, well, they got 29 yards in 1 attempt on a punt yard. On the 1 attempt on punt. No attempts for kickoff yards as the Bills. You know what? Every time the Bills got the ball, Every time the Bills got the ball from Miami's kicker, they never once tested the coverage. So, Miami with the only kickoff return yardage. And they had 2 attempts to run the ball, or return it rather, and they got 55 yards on the return. Interception yards, well, Jalen Ramsey didn't get any yards on his one pick of the game. And no safeties in this game. So Buffalo wins 30-27, but guess what? You had to think, if the pick was going to happen, and it was going to be Jalen Ramsey's, you had to think whether Jalen Ramsey shines or not, which he did, but you had to think, okay, Jalen picked off Josh Allen. Maybe Miami's going to win this game, which means we're in trouble. Well, that's for Bills Mafia, but to be honest, the Bills end up picking up the win, and very much like to say that one of the main reasons why the Bills picked up this win, I could say it's Allen, but I gotta say it's gotta be Tyler. It's gotta be Tyler. Speaking of which, before I get to things I like, things I didn't like, which we're actually gonna do on the topic of our next segment, we're going to go ahead and go into what was said in the locker room after this 30-27 victory for the Buffalo Bills to improve to 7-2. Spoiler alert, Josh is not in the locker room in this one. Well, actually, no. I think he's there, but he did not give the victory speech. Well, I mean, to be frank, or rather be honest, it was Sean McDermott as always, but this time, you know how we always hear Josh say at the end of every victory speech, he'll say, win on 3, 1, 2, 3, win? Well, guess what? Today, I should say tonight, because we're recording this now at the nighttime on Sunday, November the 3rd, 2024. But guess what? The victory speech not only belonged to Sean McDermott, but it also belonged to a very emotional Tyler Bass. Let's go ahead, before we get to things I like, things I didn't like, which we're going to get to on the other side. Same thing with game balls of the game. And then from there, we'll wrap it all up. But I just want to get into it right now. Let's go inside the locker room and see what was said from a very emotional Tyler Bass. And once again, our head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott. Sean, the floor is yours. Let's go.
Where's that guy that just made it? Franchise record, 61. Listen, hang on. Just give me a sec. I'm going to let him have the floor here. Unbelievable journey this guy's been on, man. Unbelievable, right? Mentally tough. So proud of you, man. So proud of you. Aren't you guys proud of him?
I just want to say, man, couldn't have done it without you guys, man. I've been through a lot, and I just leaned on you guys. Having you always there for me, and for me to go out and do that for you guys, man.
Hey, you want to have victory Monday?
Absolutely.
All right, listen. Hey, let that be a reminder to us of how hard it is to win week to week in this league, man. Right? A big time reminder. A little bit of humble pie, but I'll tell you what, when the game is on the line, you guys are at your best. And that's an important trait right there, man, right? T-Bass, great example of it right there. Not so good early, comes back, hits the game winner, man. 61 yards. And Reed, and Sam, and the guys that were out there blocking, heck of a job, man. Heck of a job. Love you boys. Hey, family on three. 1, 2, 3.
Family on three. 1, 2, 3, family. Well, Tyler? Wow, I mean, if I could pick anybody, and I mean anybody, that I would give a game ball out to right now, I'm going with Mr. 61 yards. I'm going with Tyler Bass. I'm going with T Bass. Well, we'll talk about it all when we return to Bill's postgame. Things I like, things I didn't like, plus my play of the game and our player of the game, the game balls of the game, and one final break before we set up Bills versus, yes, I said Bills, versus, well, in this case, Bills versus the Colts, because that's who we play next week. We'll get to that one, previewing that one, plus what's next for the Dolphins now that they're out of their bye week. But just before we go for this break, real quick. Do you guys realize, Bills Mafia, do you realize that if we win these next 2 games, we could have, no, scratch that, we will have clinched a playoff spot. And not only that, we will have clinched the AFC East for the 5th time in the Sean McDermott era. Wow. Just think about that for a second as we take a break. Back with more on Bills postgame in a moment. Bills win it 30-27 over the Miami Dolphins. They complete the season sweep for 2024 against the Miami Dolphins, beating Miami in week number 2. They beat Miami 31-10 in week number 2 on Thursday Night Football in Miami. And now, I mean now, they not only did that, but they also, and I mean also, they also defeated Miami this week 30-27 right here in Buffalo in front of the Bills Mafia. Wow. I don't know, Bills Mafia. Clearly me not paying too much attention to Joe Marino, but trying to catch up on Locked On Bills when I can. And I want to shout out Joe real quick there. Joe, I try to catch up with as many Locked On Bills programs as I can over the course of the weeks. But I mean, man, my friend, I feel like something is going right anytime I haven't listened to any of the program, which I do intend to listen to. Trust me, Joe, I do intend to listen to it because I really like what you do. I really like what you put together. All right. With that being said, time now for my play of the game. And I got to tell you, I know I gave out my player of the game before the break because we didn't get to the game balls right out of the jump there, but we got to go to him. We got to go to him. I'm giving my play of the game to Tyler Bass. I'm giving the player of the game. I'm giving my play of the game to Tyler Bass. I'm giving the play of the game to Tyler Bass. 61 yards. Wow. I didn't I was nervous. I'll tell you right now. I was nervous when this was happening. I was nervous. I thought if he does not make this, we go to overtime and then it's going to be probably a coin flip. And it's going to be Miami coming out with the upset. I mean, let's just think about it. What happens if Tyler Bass does not make that field goal? I'll tell you a few things that I've heard people say. And even Kevin Harlan pointed this out. Well, actually, his partner pointed this out on the broadcast. They were saying that things were, going on about if if Tyler Bass didn't make that field goal, if Tyler Bass did not make the field goal, we would be saying, that's it. Tyler's not the guy. We need a new kicker ASAP. Well, Tyler made us put the pitchforks, as many people would say. He made us put the pitchforks and everything else. He said, you know what? I know I've had, a bit of a rough year and I've missed some kicks where I absolutely need to make. I know that. So I'm going to go out there today, and if I have to be tested with a long kick, I'm going to try to make sure that I make that kick. And that's what he did with 10 seconds left in the game. Game's on the line. And I know Dolphins fans, I know some of you might be saying, oh, that's it. Season's over. Don't need to play the rest of the year. But a true Dolphins fan, and I don't want to be biased about this, but a true Dolphins fan, or a true football fan rather, would say, you know what, we can bounce back from this. We can bounce back from this. And take a look at this. You guys have already had your bye week. So now, you guys got to play the Rams, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Packers, the Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, and then the Jets once again. If you take a look at all those games, yeah, okay, some of them might not matter after this loss to Buffalo. But if Buffalo makes a couple of mistakes, and let's say they don't win against Indianapolis, let's just say Bills Mafia and Dolphins Nation, the Bills don't win against Indianapolis. Or they don't win against Kansas City. The good news for the Dolphins fans here is, they don't clinch. The Bills don't clinch before the bye week. They don't clinch the AFC East. So there's still some opportunity. Now, if it does happen, I understand how you guys are feeling right now. So we will see what happens the rest of the way. The Bills have the Colts and then the Chiefs. And then pretty much the bye and then the rest of the season. So we'll get into all of that in a little bit. But now that we've done the play of the game, let's go to, since we already technically gave out before the break, we already technically gave out our game ball of the game and our player of the game, rather, to Tyler Bass. We're going to give a few more out before we take a few minutes to rekindle ourselves and get ready for the Colts, which, by the way, are actually playing. They are actually playing on Sunday Night Football right now against the Vikings. But before we get ready for the Colts, Bills Mafia, and come out of a break to get that going, let me talk about some things I like from this. First of all, let's actually start with things I didn't like. So, what I did not like, I didn't like the start from Buffalo, interception right off the jump. Actually, no, a 3-and-out right off the jump, right at the start. But I did like the start with the run game. I did like that run game start. I did not like how James Cook lost a yard on 2nd and 6. But I did like his opening run. Sam Martin, I like that 49-yard punt. What I didn't like the loss of a yard on James Cook. I didn't like the interception. Excuse me there. I didn't like the interception thrown by Josh at the end of that first quarter after the Dolphins had tied the game. I also did not like Tyler Bass missing the extra point. And those are just a few things I did not like. A few things I liked from the Bills game. I liked the fumble early third quarter. I like that fumble early third quarter. Nice little grab by Taron Johnson. Sorry, Kyler Elam. Kyler Elam picked up the ball. He was the one that recovered it. Taron Johnson forced the fumble. And I did like what led to it later, but I didn't like the missed PAT by Tyler Bass. Love the touchdown later after the field goal. After the field goal by Miami. Love that touchdown early fourth quarter. And then, of course, I loved the way the Bills defense played in that end of the game, last drive of the quarter for the Miami Dolphins. I loved how they played defensively, able to get Devon Achane to lose a yard on a Tua Tagovailoa pass. And I also like how it started. It looked like a little bit of a stutter step there by Miami, who was trying to receive the ball there on a 65-yard kickoff from Tyler Bass. Speaking of Tyler Bass, I loved his statement game-winning field goal. 10 seconds left in the game. And why did I say statement? Why did I say statement? Because Tyler, with that kick, it looked like he was making a statement that he was here to stay and he was going to get better without missing those field goals that he misses when he knows he has to make them. I mean, you're not going to win every single game, even in the regular season. You're not going to win every single game. It would be really nice if you were going to do that, but then again, you're not going to sell tickets, especially when it comes to the NFL. You're not going to sell tickets if the same team wins every game. I mean, I guess you're selling tickets for the Chiefs games, but that's a whole nother story, given the fact that it's got to do with, oh, I don't know, Taylor Swift. By the way, Taylor Swift will be in Toronto over the course of November for the Eras Tour. For the Eras Tour. I don't know exactly how long that's going to be. What I do know is that she will be at Rogers Center, which is the home of the Toronto Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays right now are not in season. You know what is in season, however, at Rogers Center? Concert season. With that all being said, we'll see if the Kansas City Chiefs continue to be undefeated by the time they play Buffalo, a Sunday from next Sunday. But with that being said, as we sit here, of course, this show is coming to you on Monday ahead of that game between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. As we sit here, the Buccaneers are 4-4, and the Kansas City Chiefs are 7-0. As we sit here awaiting the final of Bills and the Colts, which is next week, and awaiting the final score of the Dolphins' next game, which is against the Rams on Monday Night Football next week. The Dolphins sit at 2-6, and the Bills sit at 7-2 right now, as we sit. With that said, for the Dolphins, as we move into our player of the game for the Dolphins, which is our game balls of the game, we're going to give one game ball of the game to the Dolphins, and the recipient of that one is going to go to quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. This is going to go to Tua Tagovailoa. So Tua Tagovailoa is going to get, and again, Tua, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize. Oh, I said the word ass there. Sorry about that. I apologize. But anyways, we're going to give it to Tua. 25 of 28 completions. He was 25 of 28 for his completions. Again, as I said, 2 TDs in the air, averaging 8.2 yards a pass and passing for 231 yards. Tua was involved in the run game, but only 2 attempts. 3 yards. 4 yards his longest run. Averaging 1.5 yards per carry. A big guy that is going to get a game ball of the game, and by far is my player of the game. It's Devon Achane. 12 carries, 63 yards, a touchdown. 12 yards was his longest run, averaging 5.2 yards a carry. And he ran for 63 yards in 12 carries. Altogether, when you put the 63, the 56, the 18, 9, and 3 yards together, the Dolphins ran the ball for 149 yards in this game. All right. To add a second game ball of the game, because we already have one given out to Tyler Bass, we're going to go ahead and give our second one to quarterback Josh Allen. It's going to be a pick-me-up. It's going to be a pick-me-up for Josh Allen. So it's going to be a pick-me-up game ball of the game for Josh Allen, who was 25 of 39 in completion attempts. Passed for 235 yards. Ends the game averaging 6 yards per catch and 3 TDs, 1 pick, 1 sack. All right, with that all being said, we are almost at the end of the program. So with that all being said, that'll do it for our game balls of the game, our player of the game. When we return after this from on both sides, on the ice and behind the benches, and for beginners, a word from the people that are making our day brighter, one song at a time. Sienna T Radio on both platforms. We'll get you set up for the Colts and the Bills next Sunday, as well as Rams and the Dolphins Monday night. Next Monday night. We set up those and wrap this one up right after this word from Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. And as I said earlier to Bills Mafia, happy Victory Monday to you. We're back right after this.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Thank you very much, Sienna, for keeping us up to date with our weekly episodes of Spicy Techie. Like the Spicy Techie Facebook page and tune into the show to learn more about what goes on. I tune into it when I can. And of course, I always look forward to the show, as well as I look forward to what comes out on Sienna's radio station, Sienna T Radio. making your day brighter one song at a time. And of course, we have a lot of good stuff coming, including, I believe, a new edition of the, yes, of the Cosmopolitan Culture Club coming up on Thursday. But I'll connect with Sienna just to make sure. I'll connect with Sienna just to make sure. I'll connect with Sienna just to make sure. And I will be, obviously, we all know that we have the Saturday triple play every Saturday, including Nick Blazewit with the Melting Pot, Samantha Ash with the Classical Cafe, and Robert Godridge with the Hourglass. All right, with that all being said, time now to put a wrap on this one. Before we put a wrap on it, though, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube at the Weekly in Sports YouTube channel, Weekly in Sports with Scott. And as I have said over the course of our timeline before we go into a full-on podcast for Weekly in Sports coming up in 2025, because that is when Weekly in Sports will become its very own podcast. And that Discord server for Weekly in Sports will be in full swing and in full force. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to Weekly in Sports with Scott, the YouTube channel, for updates on episodes as they air. And of course, you can find the show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts and listening to Apple Podcasts, please feel free. If you feel we've earned it, please feel free. If you feel we've earned it, please feel free to give us a rating if you feel we've earned it. And if you feel like we have earned a review, please do not hesitate to send us a review with your feedback as well. All right. With that being said, you can also send us comments on Spotify with your feedback as well, same as on YouTube. With that being said, if you also use the subject in an email to sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com, voice messages, you can send audio clips of voice messages directly to me. But make sure you use the subject, voice messages, or you could say voice feedback. And if you're doing it a voice message, please let me know in your voice message if you would like me to air it on the program. If you don't want me to air it on the program, I will respect that. All right, time to put a bow on this. Let's get this down. Up next for Buffalo is the Indianapolis Colts, who are going to be hosting Buffalo in Indianapolis. Then it's the Chiefs in Buffalo on November the 17th, 2024. So next Sunday, November 10th, 2024, it's Indianapolis in Indianapolis. Then it's Chiefs versus Bills from Highmark Stadium. Game time, note the start time for the Chiefs game, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Then they're off to the bye. And then the remainder of the schedule for the Bills is first the 49ers on Sunday Night Football, at the Rams on December the 8th, 2024. Start time, just like the Chiefs game, is 4:25 p.m. Eastern. And of course, we have a 4:25 p.m. Eastern time start in Detroit on December 15th. Weather permitting, we should be able to get to Detroit to play in Detroit. And why did I say weather permitting? Well, December is the month of snow, so gonna be seeing a couple of snow games coming soon. I can't wait to recap those, to be honest. Speaking of which, after the Lions, it's AFC all the way, as the Bills will play division rivals, the New York Jets, on week 17, right after the Christmas break, on Sunday, December 29th, 2024, just before New Year's Eve. And they will play the New England Patriots on January the 5th. Happy birthday to my brother and myself on January 5th, 2025, a Sunday. Time still to be determined on that one. We'll find out, I'm sure, over the course of the regular season as we go along. But they'll play the Patriots before they play the Jets for the final time this season. In the month of December, just before the Christmas break, on Sunday, December 22nd, 2024, at Highmark Stadium. So we'll wrap up the season on the road at Gillette Stadium. But before the Christmas break, we'll wrap up that part of the season in Highmark Stadium before the Bills' season finale, home season finale in New York, or against New York, on the 29th of December. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, their bye week has come and gone. So here we go with what's next for the Dolphins. Obviously, the Jets will not play the Dolphins until January the 5th, 2025, excuse me. In the last week of the season. Before that, they'll play the Rams next week on Monday Night Football. Short week on Sunday, following the Monday Night Football game, as they will play at home against the Raiders. Game time is 1 p.m. Eastern Time. They will play the New England Patriots the following Sunday. And guess what? Guess what? I thought that was going to be Christmas Eve, but that's not Christmas Eve. That's on the 24th of November. Around this time, the Bills will be on the bye week in week number 12, because their bye week is week number 12. Then the Dolphins head to Lambeau to play the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football, not Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. And speaking of the Jets, they actually will play the Jets for the first time this season. They'll play the Jets on December the 8th, 2024 at 1 p.m. Eastern in Hard Rock Stadium. Their home finale will also be before the Christmas break, but not before they are out on the road against Stephon Diggs and the Houston Texans. That is on December the 15th. Their home finale is a 4:25 game against the San Francisco 49ers on December 22nd, 2024. And then the final 2 weeks of the season for Miami are the Browns and the Jets, both road games to close out the season. First, Sunday Night Football. Then, it's the Jets versus the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Football. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with that. A lot's going to depend on how the rest of these weeks go. Isn't it funny when you have a to be announced? Isn't it funny when you have a to be announced last week of the season? So you never know when you're gonna play. You could play Sunday afternoon. You could play late Sunday afternoon. You could play Sunday night. You never know. Isn't it funny how you get to the last week of the season and you don't even know when you're gonna play? I think it is. Anyways, Bills win it 30-27. This is going to wrap it up here. So before we wrap it up, I would like to say thank you guys so much for joining us here today on the podcast. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Bills Mafia, go enjoy the rest of your Victory Monday. Go enjoy the rest of your Victory Monday, but remember, we got the Colts coming up next week. The Bills pull off the sweep against Miami in the season series in front of 70,862 fans in attendance at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York today. Referee was T. Blake, and I used that just in case I was going to pronounce it Ferrara Break. Ferrara Blake. Hopefully I was going to say that right. If I pronounced it wrong, Mr. Blake, I apologize. So that's why I said T. Blake. Excuse me. As our referee. Buffalo on the road into Indianapolis, and then it's Chiefs week here in Buffalo. But first, next week, it's Colts week in Indianapolis against the Indianapolis Colts. in Indianapolis, Buffalo, and the Colts. Game time on Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And then note the start time for next week's game following the Colts game, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on November 17th, 2024. Once again, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on November 17th, 2024, when the Bills battle Patrick and the Chiefs. That ought to be a good one. And if, I say if, the Bills can beat the Colts next week and then beat the Chiefs the following week, prior to the bye, we will be saying, we own the East of the AFC. We will find out what happens in the next 2 weeks. That is going to do it for Bills postgame. My name is Scott McGregor. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Would love it, as I said before, if you... No. I don't want to reiterate that. I don't want to reiterate that. So anyways, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here. As I said before, go enjoy the rest of your Victory Monday, Bills Mafia. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again, Bills Mafia, after Colts and Bills. As for the Dolphins fans, don't give up hope yet. Do not give up hope yet. I know things may seem like the door has closed on the AFC East, but don't give up hope yet. You still got a couple of weeks to do a good couple of games of football. I know the season might be over, but don't give up hope yet. Do not give up hope yet. All right, Bills Mafia, taking us out, as always, on a victory. Or in this case, whenever the Bills win, or they score a touchdown. You know what I mean. It is time for Shout to take us out of here and take us to next week. I am Scott McGregor saying, go Bills. Get on out of here, will ya? Take it away, Shout. Let's go. Oh, hang on. Let me get that going again. Didn't start out well. There we go. Let's try that again. Take us out, Shout. And yes, just to be clear, when I said get on out of here, I wasn't trying to be rude. So, please, go on and have fun, Bills Mafia. It's Victory Monday. Go on and have fun. Let's go. All right, with that being said, here we go with Shout. Let's go.
The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say you will. Shout it right now, baby. Say you will. Come on, come on. Say you will. Come on and shout. Say you will. Yeah. Buffalo's happening now. We're on the move now. The Bills are happening now. They're making it happen now. We got the spirit, a lot of spirit, yeah. We got the spirit. Just watch it happen now. Hey, 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 let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. The Bills make me wanna shout.
We will see you after Bills versus Colts. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.